When a foreclosure notice shows up, most homeowners don't panic right away. What they feel first is finality. It feels like the decision has already been made, like whatever equity you had is already spoken for, like the only thing left to do is brace for impact. But in Arizona, that feeling is misleading. Until the auction actually happens, ownership hasn't changed, control hasn't changed. And for many homeowners, the window to protect equity is still open, but it closes quietly, not dramatically. I'm Hope. And in this episode of the Hope Podcast, we're going to talk about how selling before auction really works, why equity is lost in ways most people never see, and how timing matters more than almost anything else. Let's start with the biggest misconception, because it shapes every decision that follows. Most homeowners assume foreclosure is a single moment, a switch that flips. But in reality, foreclosure is a process, and equity erodes during that process. Most people think once foreclosure starts, their equity is already gone. That's not true. In Arizona, equity doesn't disappear overnight. It leaks away quietly through fees, interest, and time. Until the auction actually happens, you still own the property, and that means you still control the equity. The danger isn't the notice itself. It's waiting too long without a plan. Selling before auction can be the difference between walking away with money and walking away with nothing. Once homeowners realize equity still exists, the next assumption is that selling is straightforward. List the house, find a buyer, and move on. But foreclosure changes the rules. The timeline compresses. The margin for error disappears. And treating it like a normal transaction is where a lot of well-intentioned plans fall apart. Selling a home during foreclosure is not the same as a normal sale, and that's where people get tripped up. Timelines are tighter, lender approvals matter, and mistakes cost real money. But when it's handled correctly, a pre-auction sale can still close cleanly. The key is understanding that the sale isn't just about price. It's about timing, documentation, and showing the lender the transaction will actually close before the auction date. This is usually where fear creeps in. Homeowners assume lenders are adversarial, inflexible, and eager to take the property back. That belief keeps people from even trying to sell. But lender behavior is driven by cost, risk, and certainty, not emotion. Here's something most homeowners don't realize. Lenders usually prefer a real sale before auction over taking a house back. Auctions are expensive, uncertain, and time-consuming for them. If a legitimate sale is moving forward and everyone involved can see a clear path to closing, lenders are often willing to work with it. That cooperation only happens when the sale is structured correctly and communicated the right way. Lender cooperation depends on one thing more than anything else: time. And this is where good intentions turn into bad outcomes. We see homeowners wait because they're hoping for a miracle, a modification, or a market shift. But the clock doesn't stop while you're deciding. The biggest mistake we see is waiting until the last few weeks to try to sell. At that point, even good options become risky. Listing earlier doesn't mean giving up, it means preserving flexibility. The earlier a sale is started, the more leverage you have with buyers and lenders. Waiting feels safer emotionally, but financially, it's often the most expensive choice. When people finally decide to sell, the instinct is to protect equity by pushing price. That instinct makes sense emotionally. But foreclosure math doesn't reward optimism, it rewards execution. Protecting equity isn't just about listing at a higher price. If the home doesn't sell in time, price doesn't matter at all. A realistic price, combined with the right strategy and timing, protects far more equity than chasing a number the market won't support. Equity is only real if the transaction actually closes before the auction date, not if it just looks good on paper. While homeowners are debating price, strategy, or timing, something else is happening in the background, and it's invisible unless you know where to look. The loan balance is growing. Every month during foreclosure adds costs most homeowners never see. Legal fees, default interest, and servicing charges all get added to the loan balance. Even if your home value stays the same, your equity shrinks. Selling before auction stops that bleed. It freezes the damage and turns uncertainty into a defined outcome you can plan around. At this point, the conversation usually turns emotional. Selling before auction feels like defeat to a lot of people, like admitting something went wrong. But control is not failure. And choosing your exit is not the same as losing. Selling before auction isn't giving up. It's choosing control. It's deciding how this chapter ends instead of letting the timeline decide for you. For many Arizona homeowners, it's the cleanest way to protect equity, avoid foreclosure on their record, and move forward without lingering damage. The right sale at the right time can turn a stressful situation into a stable transition and a clean next step. If you're somewhere in this process right now, unsure how much time you really have or whether selling even makes sense, you don't need to guess. Every situation is different. Equity levels, lender behavior, timelines, and options change based on details most people never get clearly explained. If you want to walk through your situation privately and without pressure, you can find our contact information in the bio. There's no obligation, just clarity and a chance to understand what's actually possible. And if this kind of guidance is helpful, make sure you subscribe to the Hope Podcast and enable notifications so you don't miss future episodes. You still have options. You just need the right information at the right time.